This is one of the fastest gaming laptops available in the market right now, packed with an Intel Core Ultra 9 processor 275HX and an NVIDIA RTX 5090 laptop GPU. It even puts my current water-cooled PC to shame. It's actually wild to think that all this high-end hardware is packed inside a relatively thin and light device that you can carry anywhere you want. But at a price of $4,500, is it even worth it? Normally, I would have said you could build a similar spec gaming PC for much cheaper, but with the current market, that's just not possible for the time being. So when you look at the Scar 18 from a pure value standpoint, then yes, this is actually a better deal than if you were to go out there and build your own PC. I never thought in a million years I would say this about a gaming laptop. Now, ASUS was kind enough to send over the laptop and sponsor this video, but they have no control over what I say in this video. So let's kick off the video and talk about the build quality. The Strix 18 weighs about 3.3 kilograms and is about 3.3 centimeters at its thickest point. It's actually a relatively light laptop given the hardware. The lid opens up easily with one hand, and there's a bit of flex to it, which is to be expected considering most of the laptop is made out of plastic, including the bottom cover and the keyboard deck. This is to keep the cost and overall weight down, so expect a bit of bowing on the keyboard deck as a result. However, the outer shell is made out of aluminum. On a side note, I'm really digging that LED dot design they have on the outer shell. You can select from a variety of pre-made animations, import your very own GIF, or animate your own from scratch, which is pretty cool, and exactly what you would expect from ROG. Speaking of LEDs, the overall design of the Scar 18 is sleek, stealthy, with a contemporary look, while still keeping the ROG DNA. Of course, it can't be a gaming laptop without RGB. The rounded edges with the full surround RGB light bar underneath gives the laptop a floating look, which looks pretty nutty at night. But if you're in class or at the office and you want to go into stealth mode, turning out the lights actually gives the laptop a cool, sophisticated look, revealing a polished layer of black chromium plating underneath the logo. The Scar 18 2025 model comes equipped with ROG's Nebula HDR display that features mini LED technology with 1200 nits of peak brightness. And as a result, you get virtually no backlight bleed. You get all this wrapped in an 18-inch screen size with a resolution of 2560 by 1600, so you do get an awkward 16 by 10 aspect ratio, which translates to some extra vertical screen real estate, which is great for content creation. However, watching videos that are formatted in 16 by 9 can be annoying with the black bars. I, for one, am glad that they didn't go with a glossy coating because I hate reflections. It just kills the immersion for me, and it's a distraction while gaming in well-lit rooms. We do have a matte surface with anti-glare coating, which does a great job mitigating light and reflections. This year, ASUS has added 2 layers of ambient contrast ratio film, also known as ACR, which basically reduces reflections by 55% and provides up to 4.5 times better contrast. You also get the best monitor specs possible on a gaming laptop. We're talking a 240 Hz refresh rate with 3 millisecond response time, which pairs perfectly with the RTX 5090 laptop GPU, because you will be pushing over 200 FPS easily with this much power. So making sure your display can keep up with your FPS is extremely important. I mean, it's no OLED display by any means, but the colors are vibrant and very accurate thanks to its DCI-P3 color rating. So if you're a content creator, artist, or anyone who works with color-sensitive projects, then you're gonna love this display. I don't know if you guys know this, but one of the main reasons I run 4 OLED monitors on my main setup is because they are much easier on my eyes. They emit about 10% of the blue light that's emitted by LED lights, hence why they strain the eyes less. And while the Scar 18 doesn't have an OLED panel, their Nebula display is TUV Rainland certified, meaning it still protects your eyes by reducing blue light before it leaves the screen, preventing eye strain during long sessions. And long sessions are exactly what you're gonna have with this beast, because gaming on it was impressive to say the least. It was able to push all my favorite games over 200 FPS in 1440p high settings, albeit with DLSS and FrameGen of course. But you know, with the new 50 series GPUs from NVIDIA, you do have access to FrameGen ×4, which drastically improves your gaming performance, at the cost of some input lag. In Cyberpunk Ultra settings without DLSS or frame gen enabled, the laptop was only pushing 97 FPS in turbo mode. Enabling DLSS with frame gen ×4, we nearly tripled our performance in manual mode. Monster Hunter Wilds is a more demanding title, and without upscaling technology, the game was pushing only 78 FPS in turbo mode, and almost double that with DLSS and frame gen enabled. In the finals, high settings, I was getting a steady 167 FPS in turbo mode without DLSS and frame gen, but with those enabled, we shot up to 437 FPS in turbo mode. Same story with Marvel Rivals in high settings. You can see the difference in performance here with DLSS and frame gen enabled compared to stock. Modern Warfare 3 was also pushing some nice frames in 1440p ultra settings, averaging around 130 FPS in manual mode, and with DLSS on with frame gen, it was pulling in a steady 228 FPS. Do keep in mind, with frame gen enabled, you will experience slight input lag, which can affect your reaction times and accuracy on multiplayer games. However, in my experience, it wasn't too noticeable, nor did it affect my gameplay. I mean, I was still clapping kids online, but everyone's experience will differ. I do want to go on record and say that the finals was the only game I experienced some bizarre micro stutters and lag. The game would freeze for a split second, and it would do this every 1 to 2 minutes. And this got annoying really fast, especially when I'm playing online. No matter what mode I play in, regardless if it's performance, turbo, or even manual, I would experience these micro stutters. All the other games I played on a laptop didn't experience this, which leads me to believe it's a game-specific issue or a game engine issue with Unreal Engine. Either way, I hope there is a driver update in the near future that can fix this. So speaking of modes, the laptop comes with 5 different profiles. Aside from the basic Windows mode, you have 4 other modes to choose that affects the laptop's performance, cooling, and noise. Silent mode, as the name suggests, severely downclocks the CPU and the GPU to keep the fan noise at a minimum, which is perfect if you're at a library or at a quiet setting. Silent mode shouldn't be used for gaming, as it drastically lowers the frame rate, and it should be only used for browsing the web, listening to music, and light work on the laptop. And then there is the next step up, which is performance mode with higher clock speeds. Then you have turbo mode, which allows the laptop to pull a max 55 watts for the CPU and 175 watts for the GPU, which translates to slightly more performance in certain titles. And then there is God mode, as I like to call it, aka manual mode. If you enable manual mode, you have access to an additional 25 watts for the CPU, and you can also overclock the GPU, bringing the total system power draw up to 240 watts. I was able to easily max out the sliders from the CPU and the GPU without any issues. And with the new overclock, I saw a nice boost in FPS across all the games tested with DLSS and frame gen enabled. There were no significant gains in performance mode when looking at just rasterization performance. So if you plan on gaming with DLSS and frame gen enabled and you want to max out your frames, I would recommend going into the manual setting of the laptop and maxing out everything. Otherwise, if you plan on playing without any upscaling, then turbo mode is where you want to be. With an Ultra 9 275HX processor, which has 24 cores, it just makes sense to max out the CPU's TDP to increase its performance, especially if you're doing any CPU-intensive tasks like editing a video or any type of content creation. Here's a quick sound test of the laptop across all 4 modes. Now this model in particular came with 32 gigs of DDR5 memory and 2 terabytes of storage via NVMe SSD. However, you can upgrade the laptop to 64 gigs of memory if you want. The good thing is that ASUS has made this extremely easy to do with their toolless design. You just slide the rubber feet to the left and push down to pop open the bottom cover. And here you can see the 90 watt-hour battery on the bottom, the M.2 slots, and the memory modules. ASUS even brought over their popular Q-Latch system, making it even easier to upgrade the components. Since we have the back open, let's take a look at the cooling solution. As expected, it's using a vapor chamber with a slightly newer design with different layers to match the layout of the motherboard. This way they can maximize contact on the CPU and GPU. They also pushed the vapor chamber all the way to the back of the chassis, sandwiching it between the upper and lower heat sinks to optimize heat dissipation. We got the intake on the bottom of the laptop, pulling in fresh air with the exhaust vents towards the rear of the hinge to help keep the warm air away from your mouse hand. This also helps move air through the keyboard, which helps keep your hands cooled during gaming sessions. I do have to admit, typing on a laptop will always and forever feel weird to me. And that's simply because I'm just too spoiled by high-end premium keyboards. In fact, I recently upgraded to a Keyboom board, which is peak keyboarding to me at the moment. So coming from that to the Scar 18 is night and day, but it's to be expected, of course, as a laptop. I will say though that I am enjoying typing on the Scar 18 more than my current ROG Zephyrus laptop, as the keys are taller than the ones on the Zephyrus. They also have this nice subtle feedback when pressed, and they are more responsive because the key presses register earlier in the stroke. It's an exclusive ROG overstroke technology that the laptop comes with. Aside from that, you also get a full-size keyboard with nicely spaced RGB lit keys, a full numpad on the side, and dedicated hotkeys near the top that can be programmed to launch apps, set as a function key, or used as a macro. I mean, the ability to customize the RGB lighting within the Armory crate is also a very nice touch. Each key is individually lit, so you can get creative and customize it how you like with tons of different animation effects. The trackpad also got a nice upgrade from the previous generations, 36% larger to be exact, which is very nice. I personally never use the trackpad on a laptop anyways, since a mouse provides better accuracy and faster movement, but from my experience the past few weeks, I didn't have any issues with it. Overall, it's very accurate and responsive with the multi-touch actions. Okay, can we talk about the sound on this laptop? I had no idea speakers on a laptop sound this good. Here, have a listen. With speakers like these, it almost makes no sense to buy headphones if you want to listen to music or watch movies, unless you want privacy, of course. But the Scar 18 does come equipped with quad speakers with Dolby Atmos. It's got 2 tweeters and 2 woofers that provide this rich and powerful bass with crystal clear highs. Now for gaming, obviously I would still put on headphones if you want the most accuracy with footsteps and in-game noises, but for consuming content, the speakers are actually good enough. Battery life, on the other hand, wasn't amazing, but it wasn't too bad either. I started my day at 100% battery life at 1:20 p.m. And then I unplugged the cable and kept the laptop in silent mode without any RGB lights for the remainder of the test. From 1:20 to 3:20 p.m., I browsed the internet and worked on the script for this video. From 3:20 to 5:50 p.m., I opened up my Setup Wars playlist on YouTube and I had it autoplay every episode one by one for 2 hours and 30 minutes exactly. At the end of all this, the laptop had 5% battery life remaining. So in total, the Scar 18 has lasted 4 hours and 30 minutes in silent mode, which isn't exactly all-day endurance like ASUS is claiming, but given the specs of this beast, I can't be complaining. It is a gaming laptop after all, so you should have the charger with you at all times. And if you're gaming, it should always be plugged in, so you are achieving the max clock speeds from the CPU and the GPU anyways. But if you accidentally leave the charger behind, you can still charge the laptop via USB-C, as it supports power delivery up to 100 watts. For connectivity, surprisingly, this laptop even puts mini desktop battle stations to shame, with a built-in 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, dual Thunderbolt 5 ports, and 3 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports. I was a little sad it doesn't have an SD card reader, but it's not a huge deal considering I can use a standalone reader, but overall I would say I'm satisfied with the port selection. The HDMI 2.1 port is also clutch if you want to connect a larger display, but if you're doing that, then you might as well connect your favorite keyboard and mouse and build a complete setup using a laptop to power it all. Overall, the Strix 18 has all the power any game could ever dream of, packed inside a laptop. And given the current tariff and stock situation, building a similar spec PC is actually going to cost you more. So when you factor that in, the Strix 18 is a solid deal for the current price. Even if you're like me and you're not a laptop gamer, you can use a laptop to power your setup by adding in your own monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and just tuck away the laptop somewhere. So yeah, that's my review of the ROG Strix Scar 18 2025 model. I'll drop a link to it down below if you guys want to check it out. Thanks for watching, and also let me know in the comment section if you want to see more laptop videos like this.